Hi, Ben here at Numbergroup, here to go over a new feature about to roll out into the platform, and that is the ability to set up webhooks within the system. Now, if you don't know what a webhook is, it is defined as a user-defined HTTP callback. If you don't know what it is, then this video may not be of massive use to you, but if you are familiar with what a webhook is, you will understand what it can do. So basically it enables you to send and receive information from ours into and from other systems that support webhooks essentially. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over a few examples in day-to-day use that we use at the moment at Numbergroup to try and give you some brief overview about what the facility can do for you basically. So in order to access it, you basically access the numbers side of things and you get your list of numbers. Now what you'll notice in the web UI is that you've got two new options here at the bottom: start of call webhook and end of call webhook. Now by default obviously this will be empty. As you can see at the moment there's two options set in there, which is ones I've set up before. So what we'll do first of all is we'll just look at an example. So let's say in this case I've got a number, 0800 411 8612. Now let's just say we're forwarding this to any old number. Okay, so that's now in place. So we're now forwarding that number to that mobile number there. But let's just say we utilize a program. Let's say we use a program called Slack. Now Slack is basically an internal was a messaging system for companies and teams. Basically designed to be an alternative to email. So if you find yourself sending a lot of emails in between different groups and memos and so on and so forth, then Slack is a fantastic piece of software that essentially just acts like a chat room. So you have channels where you have multiple people in, you also have individual person-to-person direct chat and so on and so forth. There are quite a few features which Slack allows you to do, so sort of picture sharing, image sharing, sound, video, links, websites. There's a lot of embedded stuff that you can do with it. Now obviously one of the main things you can do is you can send information into it, so basically you can send notifications into it. So in this case what I've done is I've set up this webhook which is called Slack. Now a lot of this will probably not make much sense if you're not familiar with how webhooks work, so you'll just have to bear with me while I explain it. So at the moment I've now set that to this article webhook is Slack, but you obviously would need to configure one for yourself to start off with. So I'll click on manage and you can see the information here. So as you can see, this is the URL that we've got ourselves from Slack to be able to do stuff. Okay, so that basically allows us to hook into our own system and send information into it. And then basically this is the payload or the text that we send through. Now it depends on what system you're hooking into. Each system may well have different syntax and so on and so forth. So if you're sending information to a different piece of software, you would need to look up and check their information to see how their text should be formatted when sent to their system. This is how Slack would like to have it. So basically you have payload, and obviously you've got your colon, and then you have text, and then this is the text obviously that you print out. Now as you can see here, we've got some variables in double curly brackets. So obviously we have some variables which are already set up on the system. So for example, CLI would be the CLI presented on the inbound leg, which is unformatted. And obviously you've also got here preferred caller name. Now that actually links into something different, which I'll go over in a second. But we obviously have a number of variables pre-set up within the system. I'll put a link at the end of the video which will give you a link into the variable list once the system has gone live. And then below that you have conditions. So obviously these are the conditions that need to be met if you want your webhook to basically trigger or work. So in this case what I've basically said that I need it so that the inbound leg is not connected and the outbound leg is also not connected. Now the only sort of situation with that would be is like if a call first comes in straight into the system and it hasn't basically been answered. Now this is obviously, it doesn't include an IVR, because an IVR is not essentially answering the call, it's basically just processing the call. So even if you have an IVR in place, you can put these two variables in place and you'll get notified as soon as the call hits our system. This hook will then send a message to wherever you want it to basically say, here you go, there's the message. And it basically will say, you have an inbound call, the number is, and then it will print out the number that is basically calling you. Okay, so that is a very, very basic, simple way that we have got it set up. Now, you can also use the system to retrieve information from other sources. So in here, I've done another webhook, which is called Desk Name Obtainer, not particularly well named, but still, it's just for demonstration purposes. So I've changed the username and password information for obvious reasons. So this basically hooks into Desk's API system. So you would put your normal username and password in here, and then obviously you put your desk address, and then obviously refer it to the API address. And this is basically a search using the CLI of the number of the person that's called in. So basically it'll take the 44 blah 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 number that has come in to our system, and we'll basically hook into Desk system and basically search our customer base based upon the number that's basically calling us. And then basically what that will do, if it returns a successful result, we'll basically get a string of text that's sent back to our system. And this is where you need to know how to use regular expressions, and also what kind of response you're going to get back from the system you're querying. So in this case, what we're doing is we're setting a variable, so preferred caller name, and then basically from the regex display name. So basically in this case, Desk returns the information you want after the title display name. And then basically we're ignoring the colon, but we're also capturing everything within this brackets here. So basically that means just capture everything that comes after display name, essentially. So that will basically capture the name of the name within our Desk account that is linked to the telephone number that's calling in. So basically it's just a way of obtaining, essentially it's obtaining information from a CRM software, then pulling it into your Numbergroup account, and you can then use that if you want to alter things. So basically what this now does is it basically says preferred call name is now that. So basically you have now set this variable. Now this now then means that when you get your message, so if we go back to our Slack webhook, you'll see that our preferred caller name is in there. So basically this is now going to be output the information using that variable that we obtained there. So yeah, so it could be quite a powerful and useful feature. This isn't actually live yet. This is due to go live probably at the end of the week. We're just doing the last beta testing to make sure that there are no other issues. One other thing you can do, if people who are familiar with our system, obviously you'll now have an option in here for webhook as well. So you can call webhooks basically in your call process. So if you want to have a starter call webhook, you can do that. But let's just say, for example, you potentially need to do more than one thing at the start of a call. In our case, we would need to put that first, and then we need to put our Slack webhook second. So we get our name from Desk, and we then do the Slack webhook immediately after. So once you just click Save, and you'll see that's now applied there. You'll also see that there are also some new options within the options menu. So you click on that, and you now have ability to basically only use translation options if a certain variable is met. So for example, we've obviously obtained a variable back from our Desk system, which was preferred caller ID, I can't remember what it was, preferred caller name. So you could take that value, and technically you could put this in here. So you could say only use if value that is equal to whatever. Okay, so once again, you could use this to prioritize calls. So if you have priority callers, or you have a certain customer that you only want certain customers to be able to call you, or certain examples such as that, you can basically enter variables in here. So let's just say Jeff blogs, and then click done. So basically this now means that this option here will only be used if that variable that's been pulled back from this particular webhook is equal to Jeff blogs. Now obviously we intend to have a system set up where basically you can have what's called a priority caller. So you can add particular numbers into a priority caller list. It's actually linked into the old call lists that we obviously support already. and you'll be able to upload a list into that, and that could also be your priority caller list. So if you could do a match in here to say if priority caller, or say if caller name, or you could do if CLI equals priority caller, if I can spell it right, priority caller. Now bear in mind you don't have to use the curly brackets here, it will automatically add them in by the system. And then so now that means that this option will only be used if the variable CLI, so basically the caller's number, equals priority caller list. So obviously this gives you more power to do what you want. So you can pull as many variables in from external sources as you want to. You can do as many webhooks at the start of each call as you want to. Bear in mind, obviously, each time you perform a webhook, the system has to go and wait for the information to come back. Now, if it comes back instantly, which they should do, there will be no noticeable delay to your call. But if you're polling a system, it takes time to respond, it will obviously delay the call setup if you use the start of call webhook, for example. And obviously, the end of call webhook is exactly the same procedure as the start. So when the call is terminated at the end of call, you can then trigger another webhook there. So you could, for example, do another webhook to send a message to Slack, for example, to say call finished, or something along those lines. You know, there's quite a number of ways that you can manipulate the system with this new feature. Now, obviously, the other thing on here is you can set a variable value. So if, for example, the call comes in and and this gets triggered, you can set a variable value at that point to whatever. So that can be quite useful if you're wanting to send additional information further on down the line, or if you want to adjust variables during the call process, because we allow you to process variables which are nested. So you can change things throughout the call history. And so this is quite a complicated feature. We do tend to try and make this a little bit more user-friendly as time goes on. That has to obviously be built in. I will be doing additional videos which go through particular applications. So Slack is a popular one, so I will be doing a video which goes through step by step on how to do that. And if obviously anyone else requests videos for particular software or anything like that, then by all means leave a comment below this video, and I will look to get that demonstration video created for you. So if there's a demand for it, then let me know, and I'll get the video done for you to explain how to hook that system into our own. So there we go. That's the overview of the webhook system. Should be live by the end of this week, so that should be by the 16th of June. So if you have any comments or questions, then please leave a comment below the video. Alternative, if you've liked this video, then please subscribe, and more to come in the future with regarding this webhook feature. Okay, thank you very much for your time.